Hi, y'all. Katie Parker, alcoholic. Oh my gosh, I tell you, it's been a while since we've done one of these, and it's been a while since I've quoted so quickly, and I'm a little bit like taking a drink out of a fire hose, so I'm curious to see if that hose is going to blow or not, you know. I want to thank first Mary Beth and Jimmy for hosting us and just always inviting us back. We just love coming out here to the Jersey Shore, and there's something real special about this place. When the Father was talking, when he talked about this is not there's no coincidences here, that even who you're sitting next to or who's in front of you, I mean, everything, I believe so much that if we can learn to live in the moment, and we can't learn to live in the moment because I just recommended it, okay? It doesn't work that way. We have to work our ass off to live in the moment. But when you live in the moment, you're going to be absolutely blown away at what you see. And I didn't even know it was possible. I'd always hear people say these philosophy things, and I think, whatever, chicken soup for the soul, all this stuff. And I just got stuff to do, so get out of my way and let me go on. And I had no idea the spiritual growth that's available out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here with Danny. We all grew up together. He and Charlie are like Lenny and Squiggy in a meeting. I swear to God, I come walking in the meeting. Now I am newly single. I've lost my husband, and he and Charlie were like, and I saw Charlie lean over and go, "She's my girlfriend." It's like, oh, come on, now just give me a minute, And I, when we were young and wild, I just loved it. We still are, but we're just a bit older. And my husband did a fantastic job, I think, on the first step. It's been a while. He said he has some sort of buttons, or magnetic buttons, and he goes, Katie, all of a sudden I look down, they just keep blowing open. And I'm like, well, open your arms, let me see. He goes, I'm not going to open my arms. I'm like, okay, well, if they blow open, I can't see you from that angle. Oh, there you are. Did they blow open?
It's okay if you want to tell that story.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think the fact that they're magnetic's pretty awesome. That's quick entry, quick exit, I've been sober since October the 28th of 1984, and for that I am truly grateful. I do give Charlie a hard time. I have 5.5 months more sober than he does, and that's a big deal at our house. Lots of times when he's struggling, I just tell him, honey, in about 5.5 months it'll make more sense to you. Just hang in there, baby. Hang in there. I'm sorry, did that hurt your feelings about the shirt? Okay. I was surprised you didn't mention it. I thought you were going to say something about it. I also do want to mention that the pandemic was not only was it scary and serious. I think people are underestimating the amount of pressure we are under. Tremendous pressure. We have very little patience for anybody that doesn't go at a stop sign. You know what I mean? I mean, you think about it. Everything is like, are they going to move that grocery cart out of the way? Come on. What are they doing over there? Oh, good Lord. How long are they going to take to pump that gas? And I mean, we're just wrapped really tight. And my sponsees, I keep telling them, I go, oh my God, and if you had kids, oh, God almighty. I can't even imagine what that was like to have your children at home for 2 years. I mean, it's, so, and all fun aside, don't underestimate the amount of pressure this is going to continue to keep us under. I'm not using it as an excuse, but I'm also saying don't act like it's, everything's just, I'm grateful we're open back up, but that didn't mean we just kind of popped out of the bubble and just got okay. As a matter of fact, Marty and I were talking about, man, we started redoubling our efforts right out of the gate, but we don't have children at home. Right? And Charlie's job was essential. I'm retired in the shooting community, and it's an outdoor sport. So, our lives seemed fairly normal, but there were plenty of people that were under a tremendous amount of pressure, and I know a lot of you guys were shut down for a long, long time. So please don't underestimate the amount of pressure that you are under. And that doesn't give you a free pass. That means you have to work harder spiritually. Okay? So that's my point. And I'm a huge fan of saying, please start going back to meetings. That's really, really important for our fellowship. Those are my two little, preaches. But I want to talk about the second step, but I want to talk a little bit about Bill Wilson. Bill Wilson, there's two things about him that I didn't know for a long, long time, and I've kind of made it a point to let everybody know in case you don't. Bill Wilson was recognized as one of 100 people that changed the 20th century. And we are a part of that fellowship. I mean, I don't know, that gives me goosebumps every time I say it. Can you imagine a drunk like Bill Wilson? It was out of 100 people that they picked. And then also the big book was named by the Library of Congress of one of 88 books that changed America. And so, I mean, that's a big deal, guys. And my book sat on the shelf for 15 years. That great book. And I said that in front of about 2,500 people, and they all groaned. I went, oh, like your book hadn't sat on the shelf. Oh, too bad for her. Got mine right under my arm, whatever. I'm going to talk a little bit, come on, we all go, it's a part of life. The gifts of sobriety take you away. I guarantee your book sat on the shelf at some point during that time when you're out there having babies and getting a better job and moving and doing everything. You hit 100 walls in recovery. It's the nature of spiritual growth. It's no different than growing old. How I felt in my 20s as opposed to how I feel in my 60s is very different. It's because of growth and experience. It's just the nature of it. And one of the things I love about the We Agnostics, I think it's one of the greatest pieces of literature ever written, and it should be studied frequently. Mark was the one who said that, and I remember thinking, I'm not a big reader anyway, and I'm not agnostic, so we'll go move on. And, as I got older and wiser and, really wanted to grow more, I started to study We Agnostics. And the way to study, Mark had to teach me, because I cheated. If you've heard my story, I've cheated all the way through school, and I still cheat in life today. I'm a big cheater. And, Charlie and I took a scuba diving lesson, just under 60 feet under the water, and I cheated on my test. And everybody was like, well, what are you going to do if somebody fails down there? I go, I'm going to look at the instructor over here. We go right over here. I'm not going to go over there. I'm not really quite sure what I'm even looking at on your watch. You're out of error? I'm not sure. But, I try to limit, I do cheat a lot, but I try to limit it to not too bad of life experiences that you're going to die. But, it's just a part of my nature. I'm a con artist and a cheater, and it operates pretty well with me. I'm not too bad of a liar though, but I do lie. So, I've said that before, and people are like, "Oh, I don't lie." I'm like, "You just lied saying you don't lie." Everybody lies. It may be a white lie, but it's a part of our nature, right? I mean, this is all about, what We Agnostics is about not judging yourself, opening your mind so you can see who you are, so that we can start the subtraction, right? We've become what we are. We are, I believe, born into this world pretty darn pure. And we just pick up all kinds of stuff, and that's what we make ourselves. And so this is about a subtraction, which is pretty darn painful. Mark said the way to study literature is to read a paragraph, especially spiritual literature. Now, if you're reading a novel, that's different. You read it from beginning to end. But if you're studying a piece of spiritual literature, you read the paragraph and then go back through and ask yourself what each line means to you, so that you break it down. And what I like to do in my morning time is read 2 paragraphs and then go back through and ask myself those questions. And the next day, I do it for about a week on 2 paragraphs. And then the next week, I need to read another 2 paragraphs. That way, I really begin to understand what it's telling me, so I can carry this into having an experience with it instead of just knowledge. We alcoholics love knowledge. Let's just get all the knowledge we can. And I had no idea there was a difference between the two, because I just wasn't a big student in school. I just smoked a lot of weed, and I don't know where Venezuela is, and I don't care. It's kind of one of those things. My daughter went to Costa Rica, and I said, now, is that off the coast of California? And she's like, oh, for God's sakes, Mother. I'm like, and then one time, my favorite was when she lived in Washington State. We were sitting in front of the Puget Sound, and I was yawning. I said, wow, what is the altitude here? And she looks at me and she goes, Mother, this is sea level. And I said, but there's Mount Rainier right there. She goes, you have to be on it. And I swear to God, I was probably about 49. I went, okay. And now I understand what they're talking about. I got hundreds of those. But I'm also, like I said, I'm quite the con artist. So if I screw up and somebody looks at me puzzled, I'm like, just kidding. Oh, boy. Okay, Dr. Bob said that the directions in our book are clear-cut, but that everybody has a different experience. And one of the things that I think is so important there is the directions are clear-cut. We were just talking about this a minute ago. So, but I think sometimes we get mixed up behind the term experience. I've heard people say, well, have you ever had experience with this? Well, I don't have to have the experience to help you. Matter of fact, you can just bring me your problem, and I'll ask enough questions to where I can get an understanding of it. It's a little bit like a courtroom. You bring the jury in, the jury has really no idea what they're coming in for, and they hear the prosecutor and what's the other guy's name? Defender, thank you. I knew that. The prosecutor and the defender, and then we make up our mind what we think really happened. Right? That's kind of what a sponsor does. So when you bring me your problem, I don't have to know who you are, where you live, or anything like that. I'm going to ask enough questions to be able to help you with it. But I think sometimes people think you have to have that experience to be able to help someone. They call me and go, Katie, I've never had experience with this. Have you? And I said, well, you don't really have to have experience with it to help somebody. That's the purpose of our text. But that doesn't mean our experience doesn't help people. So don't hear me say that incorrectly. Our experience is a great gift we have. We just don't have to have the same experience for me to help Julie, right? I can help Julie through many things, and we have two very different lives. So it says in three different places, there's some words that I think are pretty profound in the book. On page 77, and this will all be on tape too if you don't want to be flipping through pages, it says our real purpose. Bill loved the word purpose. He loved the word basic. He had a lot of words that he loved. It says our real purpose is to fit, which means to adapt ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. We are here to play the role God has assigned us. Now, I don't know about you. The first time I've read that, I went, whatever. Ain't happening. I like who I am. I like the way I go through life. And there you have it. And to me, it was like, I didn't even understand what the word fit meant. You know, I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty fit. But that's not it. To adapt yourself. So that's our real purpose. And then it says in Tradition 5, our primary purpose is to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. That's the fifth tradition. And then it says in the foreword to the first edition, to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. If you really, really think about it, the big book, I hope your big book is marked up, or you get a new one. I think getting a new book every several years might be something that interests you. I marked my first one up too much, and I got a new one. I like what I've done. It makes me see different things at different times. It's just an amazing book. It meets me where I am. And I think we need to be seekers, right? The second step to me is about seeking and about understanding what seeking looks like. For my experience, I'm 37 years sober. I got sober when I was 26 years old. I was none too young. I mean, I was 26. That's pretty young. I wasn't 16. I was 26 years old. I had a 5-year-old daughter. And I was a single mom. She felt like an anchor. I mean, that really will slow your drinking and partying down when you got a kid. And the next thing you know, man, I am stepping so far outside my values, and I knew it was wrong because I was raised with values, and I couldn't stop. And it's funny because the only time I ever tried to drink like a normal man, I was actually on a date, which those didn't happen often. It was usually at the end of the evening. You go, you'll be fine. A date was really not happening. And I remember going out with him thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be the right thing to do. And I was a gin drinker. I loved clear liquids. I still do. And I thought, I'm going to drink a scotch. That's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have scotch on the rocks. And they bring one over, and I swear I was like, because I thought I drank too fast. I thought, oh, God, that was terrible. And I mean, I sipped on that thing for about 5 minutes. I went, oh, forget it. Just gin and tonic right here. Bring it over. Slam it down, slam it down, slam it down. And the end of the evening was a disaster, as it always was. I didn't get home till 4. I had April at the babysitter that took care of the strippers' kids because you could keep them till 4. And then, I had everything just lined out for me. And what was so sad is I knew I was stepping so far outside my values, and you all know exactly what I'm talking about. I guarantee almost all of us were raised with a level of value. I think we are brought into this world with value. And that's what the book is trying to wake me up to. This whole prejudice that we have is talking about values, prejudgments, codes, morals, all of these things. I'm not talking about being a prude. Yeah, I mean, you get to be whatever you want to be. But if it doesn't feel right in here, that to me is the Spirit speaking to you. And that's why when that gentleman, the father, was talking, it was a pretty profound little moment there. I think most of us were having. It says, and I like to say, I'm going to talk about the God of my understanding. The God of my understanding and the God of your understanding can be totally different. We throw the gates so wide open in Alcoholics Anonymous. All we have is identification and power. And I'm not surrendering to power because somebody doesn't like the word God. I mean, whatever. That'd be like me going to Jiffy Lube going, hey, will you guys clean my teeth? They go, hey, lady, we only change oil. Too bad. I'm ready for you to clean my teeth. I mean, that's all we have is those two things. We're not going to change what we have because it makes you uncomfortable. How about the not drinking part? That should make you a little uncomfortable, right? We're going to need you to not drink, but the God thing's going to throw you over the edge. You know what I mean? I mean, if you really kind of weigh the two out, you begin to hear how silly that sounds. You can call it higher power. We throw the gates wide open. It can be anything you want as long as it makes sense to you. And that's what We Agnostics is trying to wake us up to. Our program is about an intimate relationship with the God of your understanding. That is a big deal. I did not understand that. I thought it was about understanding God. Big difference. Intimate relationship, so I can hear this still quiet voice talk to me. That still quiet voice talked to me when I was drunk all the time. Oh, don't go with him. Go home. No, don't get in the car. Stay. All the time. And if you can quiet everything down, and it doesn't have to be a meditative state you're in, it's not bad to do that, but you can actually hear the still quiet voice talking to you. You don't have to be spiritually fit to hear it. It helps if you are. You can hear it a whole lot more. Your consciousness becomes, your thought life and your conscious life, when we're talking in 10 and 11, will get on a whole different plane. And you actually hear God say, go to the grocery store first. Don't go by the dry cleaners. You're like, really? Huh, guess there must be somebody at the grocery store I'm supposed to see. So I'm going there, I'm like, sometimes I'm forgetting what I'm getting, but, I'm looking around. Who is it? Who is it that needs me? Charlie and I do it on airplanes all the time. I mean, I'm telling you what, you sit next to somebody on an airplane, next thing you know, if they always say, where are y'all going? We go, oh, well, we're doing a lot of 12-step work. And most people know what that means. They go, really? My mom's got a drinking problem. Next hour, we're talking about alcoholism. There's a reason that person was sitting right next to me. And I mean, hundreds of times that happens to us. Hundreds. Don't underestimate how you can help when no one else can. And some people want to keep their anonymity to themselves. Have at it. I think you're missing a huge piece of your work. But the truth of the matter is, it's really amazing what you can get away with. I mean, talking to people. You can help so many people. I like to mention that the bridge the gap is the doctor's opinion is the allergy to page 24. This is stuff I didn't understand for many, many years till I became a student of the book. So the allergy to page 24, doctor's opinion. Bill's story is the progression of alcoholism, and We Agnostics is all about setting aside prejudice. I thought it was all about setting aside prejudice against religion. I really did. Because I didn't ever read it, and I never studied it. And one of the things that I think is so awesome about We Agnostics is when you think about prejudice, you have to think about what you're prejudiced against. Once again, I thought prejudice, because remember, I'm very simple-minded. I thought it was about skin color. That's it. That's as far as I ever went. That's it. Prejudiced against that. Prejudice against women, prejudice against men, pretty much right there. I had no idea that it meant prejudice against everything. Look, do you believe you're very judgmental? Oh, my God. Wake up, because it's shocking up there. I mean, I'm like, oh, my God, what was she thinking when she put that shirt on? Whew, I don't know why they painted those walls blue. Well, I guess they must have had a reason for it. I mean, just driving along, somebody flies by. I'm like, God, where are they going? You know what I mean? I judge everything all the time. And if you wake up, you will be quite surprised at how judgmental you are. And don't judge yourself for being judgmental. Just wake up to it. See, when you start to judge yourself, the ego wins. Anytime you go from self-righteous to self-pity, you miss the whole point. You've got to realize that when you do something and you start to beat yourself up, you miss the whole point of the lesson. Right? And you go deeper and deeper and darker, and then you're in the bondage of self. The word agnostic means one who neither affirms nor denies the existence of the personal deity. A lot of big words, whatever that means. I think the next part is very interesting. Page 44, it talks about the difference between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. Because I've heard people say, I've watched my sister drink and she leaves half her drink there. I don't understand that, right? You've heard people say that? Wait till you read this paragraph. In the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. And I know that's meant to be funny, but listen to this. We hope we've made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. Really? You've made that clear? I clearly missed it. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take, yeah, you're probably alcoholic. Just there, simple as pie. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. So I do understand why my sister can drink some and then set it down, or not finish the drink. I'm understanding the difference. I'll tell you the tricky one is the hard drinker and the real alcoholic. They look just alike on the bar stool. But given sufficient reason, the hard drinker can stop or moderate. And they still baffle me. That and the binge drinker still baffle me. Step one is it's not trying to convince me that I have a problem, but that I have no solution. You see, by the time you pick up the drink, even with sobriety time, it's no longer the problem. It is the solution. You don't reach that drink and go, oh, this is such a bad idea. You go, oh, God, give me that. It never even goes through your mind. And anyone who's either relapsed or gotten that close to it, and I have gotten that close to it, let me tell you, that is the scariest moment. That is as bad as a horrible car accident, if you ask me. It is frightening. It is scary. I was from here to the end of that wall going to get a beer at 17 years sober, and I said, screw it, I'm going to get it. It was not the problem. It was clearly the solution. Got a phone call. I was taught in AA to tell the truth to an Alcoholics Anonymous member. Were you taught that? If you weren't, I hope you have it. Because, man, you've got to be able to tell somebody the truth. I'm not necessarily going to tell my neighbor the truth, but I'm telling you the truth. And I said, well, he goes, what are you doing? I was at an outdoor festival, had my little straw hat on, had my little shorts on, little crocheted top. I was really happening. I was mad at him. And the next thing you know, the phone rings. This guy says, what are you doing? And I said, you know what? I'm getting ready to go drink a beer. And he goes, what? I mean, he's screaming at me. It was just like he stunned me out of it. And he, get out of there. Have you had it yet? No, get out of there. And I mean, I walked about 4 miles, just head down, pulled my hat down, just talking to him. And I swear to God, I'd love to tell you I threw myself into the big book after that. Nope, went to a meeting. That's all I knew to do. And let me tell you, that saved my life at the moment. It really did. It was not going to sustain where I was. But I went to a meeting, shared the story, because that's what I did. I used meetings to treat my alcoholism, and a girl asked me to sponsor her. I know, you're looking at her going, did you just hear what I said? What? And, God probably sent her to try to help me get in the book to do it, but I told her no. I can't do it. I have, whatever. I don't see all this stuff till I look back at it. It is really, really interesting. I like to also say, too, this, Charlie said it beautifully. When we're talking about the first step has to be absolutely hopeless. When you take the step off the wall, it is not trying to talk about all the unmanageability in your life. I didn't know that. I thought it was back in the day, but I didn't study the book. It's not talking about it's only talking about the unmanageability behind the drink, period. The second and third step are talking about my life. So that's really, really important. So when you do the first step, you don't have to list all the things that are unmanageable in your life. Trust me, that list is never ending, okay? That's not, for you to see what's unmanageable based on a first step experience, that's not going to change anything. It all changes between really 3 and 11. That's where the work happens. You have to understand that third step. So that first step, I think, is why would I need the power if I think I could get this job done on my own? I remembered thinking when I read the first line in the third step where it says you have to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. I went, I don't know who wrote this book, but that ain't right. I get stuff done. I mean, I left home at 15. I still graduated high school. I got a job. I got the school to work with me. I got my boss to let me off in the summers. Who gets that? I do. Because people liked me. And I got all kinds of stuff. So why would I want to surrender that tool? Now, Charlie says self-reliance didn't work well for him. He got in a lot of trouble. A lot. But that was not my experience. So I didn't understand any of it. It says on page 44, it says about half our original fellowship had a problem with God. Raise your hand. How many of you guys, when you came into AA, had a problem with God? Oh my God, it is half our fellowship still. It always is. You could be in any meeting and ask that question, and you'll see half the room raise their hand. Isn't that wild? 1935, still the same thing today. So it's just, it says to be doomed to an alcoholic death or live along spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. To be doomed is a bad doctor's appointment. Think about this. I'm over at my buddy's house. His daughter's flaming alcoholic. Wow, drinking lots of vodka bottles everywhere. I'm not talking to her yet. I'm talking to my buddy and the grandmother. And I read that line, and I'm just moving on. I'm just, kind of doing this. And he goes, whoa. He goes, read that line again. I said, to be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live along spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. He goes, what? And I thought, well, let me read that again. That's a pretty heavy line, isn't it? Because, see, to us, I'm like, well, now, hold on, let's weigh this out. How bad is doomed? I mean, it's doomed. Am I going to lose my house in doomed or what? Because now if I'm going to lose my kids, we're going to really get serious now. But my house, and he was shocked by the statement. And we just read and go, oh, yeah, well, that's what it says. It says, do I believe this? Are these my two choices? See, like I said, all we have is identification and power. I thought staying sober was the finish line. I really did. And I thought, just leave me alone. Sober, I can take care of everything. I was a darn good manager. I raised a family. I had a great job. I had a great career. I could manage. And I was also very much like the Ray Donovan at work. I was the kind of gal, I was a very successful businesswoman. I ran with all successful businesswomen. I didn't even know we had a problem there. Because I just didn't see it. And we are running and gunning, making tons of money. And then when I retired, I was sitting with Charlie, and he had some pretty high-rolling men sitting there. And I just leaned in to ask a question because I'm thinking, yeah, I'm a businesswoman. And one of them just turned his big old meathead to me and goes, that'd be none of your business. I remember thinking, what? But I knew he and Charlie worked together and made a lot of money, and I thought, oh my God, I walked away from that going, what just happened in my world? But you see, when you don't see it, you aren't aware of it. And I had no idea. I thought that in the world of business, I was very good at it. And if they told me we needed to get rid of somebody, I got rid of them. I was the Ray Donovan of my job. And I didn't have any concern for that person's life. Isn't that terrible? I went back, and when I came out of untreated alcoholism and came aware of what I had done, I hunted every one of those people down. It was very emotional, very meaningful, and apologized for how thoughtless and inconsiderate I was to snub them out of the position. Because, see, HR can't do that, but I can. Yeah, it's a lot of amends I made, a lot. I've only got one girl I can't find, and it was bad. Page 50, it says, instead, we looked at the human defects of these people and sometimes used their shortcomings as a basis of wholesale condemnation. Now think about that. Most of us use that in religion, but we use that in everything. We use it in politics. We use it in AA. There are some people who don't really care for the big book. And if you start talking the big book, they just shut you down. Or if you start talking about, some sort of philosophy in AA, I'll shut you down in my mind. So you see, we use this all the time. That's why We Agnostics is so powerful. It's trying to wake me up to all the many times we shut things down. I don't even give it a second thought. If it doesn't fit into what I think it should look like, I shut it down. Well, if we're listening to what the Father said, I'm supposed to be hearing what they're saying. I'm supposed to be at least considering what they're saying. I didn't do that for a long time. I'm better than I've ever been, but I am by no means perfect at it. Please don't ever hear me think that I'm saying that. I always like to say there's no fighting in the lifeboat of Alcoholics Anonymous. You get in the boat. If there's somebody in AA you don't like, write a piece of inventory on it. Figure out what it is about you about them that bugs you, because you're the one with the problem, not them. Big Head Doug is always going to share his stupid stuff. Bandana Brian is going to just ramble on about nothing, And I got to sit there be a woman amongst people, and you know exactly who I'm talking about, don't you, Danny? Then we got Danny Brown. Oh, my God. But, the people in your home group, it's kind of funny because when they raise their hand, you go, oh my God. And I swear to God, you're going to get up and get a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom or look at your phone or do something. I have no idea why they're in the meeting with me, but I got to ask God to bring me to the awareness of what I'm dealing with here. Then I love page 54 is talking about worshiper. We are worshipers of everything. We found, too, that we had been worshipers. Had we not worshiped people, sentiment, things, money, and ourselves. Now, here's something interesting. The word worship means to turn your attention to. And I think people have a tendency, I don't like this term in AA, and this is just my opinion. If you want to keep using it, whatever. But it's when they say, she made him her higher power. That's not at all what she did. She just turned her worship to him and quit working an AA program. Had nothing to do with God. She just quit the AA program. You can be in a crazy, stupid relationship, but if you're working an AA program, you're at least staying connected to the power. Over here may be nuts. Charlie and I had a nuts relationship the first 4 years. Chad never saw that. Danny saw all of it. And, anyone in AA was like, oh my God, what are these two doing? And it was crazy. And Charlie still says, best thing ever happened to me. I'm like, oh my God, were we even in the same room together? Because, wow. And, but now look what God did with this relationship and how many people, because he woke us up and we get to wake up people. Would never have happened if I broke up with him 22 times and I counted. Now, it was for good reason, and he will tell you it was for good reason, but that's what I'm saying. I have no idea what God's plan is. That's why I love that the book says we are not to be the arbiter of anybody's sex life. I don't really care to hear about your crazy relationship for the next 4 years, but I will, because I don't know. I'm never going to tell you need to leave him unless he's physically beating you. You know what I mean? If he's cheating on you, your values are too low. If you ask me, for me, I can't do that. I got zero tolerance for that or physical abuse, and because I'm too self-centered, I don't want to have to work on trusting you. It's too much work for me. Too much work for me. And that's the truth. So please see the selfishness in it, because if you can do it, more power to you, and you will get closer to God because of it. I, on the other hand, don't want to do that. So that's one thing. But the worship so think about it. We call it workaholism, exerciseaholism, spendaholism, and we qualify for 10 of the 200 fellowships. What it is alcoholism. You're not treating it, and if you're not treating your alcoholism, it's going to squirt out everywhere. That's just the nature of it. It is, and I swear to God, you ask somebody about their AA program, and it's. I love to ask the questions. I go, so what does it mean to be alcoholic? And they can't really answer the question. And they're 10, 12, 15, 16 years sober. Can't answer the question. I couldn't at 17 years sober. I couldn't answer what the second step meant. The third step, everything was off the wall. Well, that's to turn my life and my will over the care of God, as I understood him. That's what the third step is. Everything was always off the wall step. I had no idea what the third step said. I knew what the third step prayer said, but that was it. You see what I mean? So when we are worshipers already by nature, and we're not working an AA program, oh my God, we run to extremes. It's like we were talking about, we're going to do marathons, and we're going to go do this, and we're going to swim the Atlantic Ocean, and we're going to go on a sailboat around the world, and, oh, sure, let's just be with yourself for the next 360 days, see if you don't lose your mind that way. But whatever. Page 55, we finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup. Interesting. We found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it's only there that he may be found. It was so with us. And when it said the last analysis, it means the last place we look. And that's that still, quiet voice. Once again, I don't care what you call it. We call it in the book the sunlight of the Spirit. We call it in the book my Creator. I love those because I want to have an intimate, personal relationship with my Creator. I don't want to understand what God is. I want to understand our conversation. I write love letters to God all the time, and he writes back. It's the two-way prayer that Henrietta Seiberling did. I love the two-way prayer. Now, I don't do it the way Father Bill says to do it, But I've done a lot of stuff to make it into my own, how it works for me. That's where I think it becomes very experiential. The book talks about, in We Agnostics, 6 times it talks about prejudice, different types of prejudice. And it says on page 49, we beg you to lay aside your prejudice, even against religion. See, I thought We Agnostics was all about just prejudice against religion. I had no idea it was about everything in the world. That's the way I was. We have self-reliance versus God-reliance. That's 2 very different things. I didn't even understand that. I remember when it said that when they said you have to surrender self, I'm like, do I have to ask God to help me brush my teeth? I always smart aleck, always that smart aleck attitude. And the truth of the matter is there's some things that God expects me to do, expects me to set my alarm and get out of bed. But some people have a heck of a time getting out of bed. That's not too terribly difficult for me, but for some people it is very, very difficult. I don't know what your troubles are, but you can ask for the help of God to get you to do these things. But the truth of the matter is when I get this intimate relationship with God, Mark said to me one time, I said, oh my God, Mark, I just don't do it consistently. And he goes, Katie, I'm a jock, you're an athlete, I've been an athlete all my life. He goes, you're disciplined. He goes, take the same discipline you do in your athletic world into your 10 and 11. And I'm like, well, hold on just a second. So I don't want to go to the gym every day. I don't. I sit in front of the gym. I'll make 3 calls before I have to go in there. I'm going to go in there, but I don't want to go in there. People think athletes just can't wait to go work out. We get tired too. And so he said, you have to do it. So I have to do on awakening, period. I have to do watching throughout the day my 10th step. I have to take the 4 actions it tells me. I have to do an evening review, period. Now, I am terrible at an evening review. I do a morning review. I tried so hard to do it in the evening, and it just doesn't work. I also tried to swim, and I'm not a swimmer. I bought the cap, I bought the ugly suit, I bought the flippers, I bought the ear radios, and after about a month, I went, forget it, I'm not doing it. I look stupid. Oh, my God, and it is just so boring. Oh, my God. And so I said, forget it. So I looked at my evening review the same way, and I said, but I do my evening review first in the morning. Now, if I get pissed off shortly before I go to bed, I will do my evening review before I go to bed because I won't sleep well. And you'll know what happens when you haven't done an evening review. Your eyes ping open at 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning, you look at your clock. It's like, that son of a bitch. Just... the mind goes. So really, if we think about it, 4 through 9 gets us unblocked from the sunlight of the Spirit, right? It's a must. You have to do this to get unblocked. I was living off an experience I had in early sobriety. I did my major inventory. I did my amends. I did all the stuff. And then I just coasted. And very common in Alcoholics Anonymous. Some of us can coast longer than others. I could coast a long time. Charlie, same thing. We thought we were all about it, making 5 meetings a week, sponsoring people, doing codependency group therapy. We're just doing all kinds of stuff for self, just trying to better self. And I had no idea that we were not really treating alcoholism. And that's what I see happening with a lot of people with double digits. I call it the teenage years, between 7 and about 17 or 18. It can happen really at any time for anybody, but that's my common number I see. And what typically happens is the gifts of sobriety take you away. So anywhere really between 3 and 10, you're getting having a baby, you're getting married, you get a better job. The next thing you know, you're taking care of a elderly parent. You're doing all kinds of good things in the world. And you just kind of drift away and your sponsees fall. You go back to school, you do something like that. And the next thing you know is once you fall into that spot, it's very difficult to get back in touch with that first step experience that got you where you are. And so the gifts of sobriety take its way. You might make a meeting or 2, or you're going to do Zoom. You're going to take a easier, softer route because it's just easier. And I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. Please don't hear me. I've got 100 softer routes in my world. But what I end up seeing is to try to get that person to wake up. It's not so much a first step issue to me. It's a third step issue. You just don't understand what the root of your problem is, because I didn't understand what the root of my problem is. I didn't wake up till 17 years. I was shooken awake. Shooken, is that a word? Shook awake. That's a Texas thing. We just go shook 'em. And so I was shook awake, and the next thing you know, I'm kind of awake, and I really don't like it. And so I just think, oh, I'm going to still do it my way. Charlie's over here brown-nosing with Mark Houston like crazy, and I'm over there going, whatever. And so it took me 4 years to come out of untreated alcoholism. That's how hard-headed and stubborn I am, and full of pride. I mean, I can do it. You don't need to tell me. I've been doing it right. I'm 17 years sober. And that's why I call those the teenage years, because you can't hardly tell you anything. It really requires somebody who's been there, done that, and has the right approach for you. And I don't know that I'd ever be the one for that, but maybe something I'm saying is kind of rattling you. So 4 through 9 gets us unblocked from the sunlight so that we can, have the sunlight of the Spirit. And it says over on page 55, actually, we were fooling ourselves. For deep down inside every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. Isn't that interesting? Every man, woman, and child. I think we've covered everybody. Of course, in this day and age, it may not be true. I said it. I'm saying it, okay? I'm saying it. That's the way it is. You get to say yours, I get to say mine. So it says, it may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or another, it's there. And that's where it's really tricky. So that is what we're trying to get to, is down here, I don't care what you call it. But that's what we're trying to get in touch with. You know that feeling when you've done something wrong. It's down all the way to the core of your being. And 10 and 11 are the disciplines to keep us unblocked, right? And we'll explain those in depth. And the 12th step is to continue to practice and carry the message, because we can help when no one else can. We can help when no one else can. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many 12 steps I get to go on, because people in the community know I'm in recovery. They didn't go to treatment. I mean, I go to a treatment center, carry the message, but I go to the neighbor across the street's daughter-in-law, and you walk into that little dark room, and that sweet little girl with her hat pulled down, first thing she said is, I like your fingernails. Bless your heart. Are we going to turn any lights on? Are we going to sit in the dark? Okay, sitting in the dark. We're going to sit in the dark. And, and then you just start the drill, right? Working with others is beautiful. First, 7 or 9 pages, Chad, that do the first meeting? First 7 pages do the first meeting. And I mean, I never read Working with Others. I just sat down with you. Said, so you think you're alcoholic? Yeah, okay, let's move on. I didn't explain to you what it meant to be alcoholic. I didn't know we were supposed to. But, I helped a lot of people. God takes up a lot of slack. And so here's the problem. We fall asleep because we get blocked, because we get lazy. It says we alcoholics are undisciplined. God disciplines in us this very way. How do I get more disciplined? By having my ass handed to me 8,000 times. The pain makes me do it. The pain is the spiritual awakening. The enlightenment is the high part of the wave where I go, oh my God, look what's happening. Not when I'm in it. It's like labor. Oh my God. How many of you guys, women, have had babies? I mean, we could just sit here and talk for the rest of the hour on that. That's incredibly painful, okay? And then all of a sudden, voila, you got the greatest gift in the whole wide world. And that pain goes away, and you get amnesia, and you have another one. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. So the same thing, that's just the nature of it. And then here's what I love. The bedevilments on page 52. Didn't even know they were there. Page 52. Bedevilments means unrelenting torture. Isn't that a doozy? I know we use a 1935 dictionary. Some people are like, whatever. Okay, well, just saying. So it says, now ask yourself, turn statements into questions. We were having trouble with our personal relationships. Anybody in your life you're having a little trouble with? 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 45. We couldn't control our emotional nature. Losing it in traffic. Huh? Anybody? Shoot the finger at anybody last week? Yeah, just curious. We were prey to misery and depression. Self-pity, big time self-pity. If you only understood how much trouble I was in. Yeah, nobody likes me. I swear to God, I always say that feels like a tentacle stuck in my neck. I'm like, oh my God, get him away. We couldn't make a living. Some people can't. Some people can't enjoy their job. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to others. It's unbelievable. I answered yes to almost everything except I couldn't make a living. I did love my job the whole time I had my career for 30 years. So that one, it was fine. But the rest, boy, it was tough. And I always like to say drunk or sober. Untreated alcoholism is rampant in Alcoholics Anonymous, and people don't even know it. I never knew it. I did not know I was in untreated alcoholism, which was the bedevilments. And I mean to tell you, my sponsor likes to really hang on the one that says we were prey to misery and depression. Think about in Texas, we have these gigantic hawks. Or what are they called? That eat the armadillos and stuff? Is it buzzard? Buzzard. Yeah, hawk's pretty. Buzzard's ugly. And buzzard, you just want to shoot out of the sky. You don't. You just want to. You guys might have those big black crows. Have you ever had one of those come attack you? I got no mercy for that thing. But so you got these big old buzzards, and these buzzards they prey over the dying animal, right, that's been hit or something, and they just go over it and over and over and just wait till it dies and then just go peck it to death, peck all the, it's nasty. That's Texas. But I'm telling you, that's what prey looks like. And then it says on page 44, and this is the one I do like to read the whole thing, and I don't have it on these particular notes, but it says, if a mere code of morals or better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. Now think about that. If you know having an affair is wrong and you can't stop yourself, that's what it's talking about. If you know stealing is wrong and you can't stop yourself, that's what it's talking about. If you know lying is wrong and you can't stop yourself. If you can't stop yelling at somebody, this is what we're talking about. Just because you know it, you don't have the power to stop it. And it says, but we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. Oh my God, I worked an AA program like Chicken Soup for the Soul, and it did not work with a personality like me. And I got spanked when I was a kid. I got no problem with spanking. I'm not spanking my grandkids, but I spanked my children plenty. And but I have no problem with that. If you have a problem with that, I'm not interested in where you're going with it. I'm just telling you about mine. But I never believed in slapping in the face, and I slapped both my children. And I never got slapped myself, and I couldn't believe it. I slapped my daughter when she was 12, and they're 10 years apart in age, and my son when he was 15. And I was shocked when I slapped both my kids. And I could tell you why I did it, and you'd probably go, I may have done it myself, but it still shocked me. And when I went to make the amends to my daughter, who's now 43, she was 5 when I got sober, she goes, oh, Mom, that was no big deal. That wasn't even in the top 10 things you did. And this was after 5 years old, okay? So we're talking sober time. And she started listing the things, and I was like, really? They wouldn't have never made my list. I thought the slapping was so bad. And stealing, I worked for a company. I mean, I was a franchisee. I did some dishonest work in that stuff. I mean, I think a lot of us do a lot of dishonest stuff, and we justify it. I'm not saying that I'm the only one in the room that's done it. Had an affair. Anybody had an affair? Yep, we can do that one. Charlie and I bribed a doctor that was, oh my God, we went in with money in his top pocket, and I was like, so we're going to go really do this? Yep, okay, well, let's go. In full sobriety, and I'm not ashamed at all to say that. I'm not that person today. But that was completely sober. And I needed this doctor to not turn in a piece of medical paperwork on my husband that passed away because I wouldn't get his life insurance if he did. And let me tell you, if I can screw a life insurance company, I'll do it sober. I have a real problem with insurance, I paid you all that money, and now you're going to make some formality here? That and Social Security I got trouble with. But so we went in there prepared to bribe, completely sober, active members of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God he didn't ask, and we didn't have to do it. We both walked out, and I was like, wow, I can't believe we were going to do that. Oh, well. You know what I mean? And then I come out of untreated alcoholism, and I can't believe it. I mean, that's a little bit more shocking. The affair is pretty shocking. All this stuff is like, wow, see, I can do all these things when I'm not spiritually fit.
We've been watching The Sopranos a lot.
We had been watching The Sopranos. And Charlie was about 200 pounds, and he had a lot of money in his pocket. And we were like, okay, we're going to do this. I don't know if the doctor will ever hear it, but I dang sure didn't go make an amends for that either, because we didn't really lie, did we? We just told the truth and said, when I need this year and not that year. And he goes, okay. Imagine what the truth does. That list is endless, guys. In 17 years sober, I've done a lot of stuff that is wrong, very wrong. And I got away with it because I was not spiritually fit. I wasn't working the program based on getting a closer relationship with God. I was working the program based on staying sober. And I thought that at least I'm not drinking. And then it says on page 53, we're going to go for about another 10 minutes. On page, or maybe, I don't know how you're sitting in those chairs. Page 53, logic. Oh, logic, we loved it. We still love it. That's what the book says. Don't we love it? Let me think about this, how we can make this happen. And hey, I got an idea. Let's do this. And that's logic. Didn't stop, didn't ask, didn't question, didn't take it into morning prayer and meditation. Wasn't looking for an idea, wasn't looking for any guidance from God. I just have logic. And let me tell you, people will use the line out of the book. The book says that, God gave us brains to use. I'm like, do you know where that is in the book? You want to take me on? Okay, let's do it. Where is it in the book? Right? It's all the way over into the 11th step. So you better have been working those steps diligently, and then God gave us brains to use. But if you're not working those steps and doing that, that brain is pretty self-centered. And that's the nature of it. I always like to call it the voice of reason. That's what logic can be to me. I'm always going for the reason. I'm not listening for the spiritual direction. Then we fall asleep. Some of you guys know my story where my husband got really, really sick. And we had catastrophic insurance. Once again, you're self-employed. Back in the day, in the 90s, we had catastrophic insurance. It wasn't going to cover anything. They wanted all this testing done. Well, I'm not going to take him into the doctor's office and pay $50,000 worth of medical bills because we don't have insurance that'll cover that. So I'm asking all these questions. I'm getting no answers. And I'm like, my God, my husband needs something done. We have no idea what it is. And one of the friends said at my meeting said, why don't you drive a school bus? You should get an instant HMO, which, by the way, keep that in your back pocket. It's a darn good one. If you need insurance, medical insurance, they can't deny you. No pre-existing conditions in that industry, right? Teachers and all that stuff. So I said, okay, I'll go drive a school bus. That sounds like I'm a doer, right? I have this fitness business. It fits perfect. I got to get up at, with the bricklayers at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was a little bit of a bummer. And but I'm only going to do it for a few weeks because I'm going to just go drive the school bus. I'm going to go take him into the hospital. Or take him to the doctor, get his head scanned, and then I'm quitting the job. Nobody's getting hurt. There's plenty of people out there that'll drive a school bus. I don't see that as anything wrong, but I thought it was brilliant. Do you see how wrong that is? I go to these people, they train me, they're going to do all this stuff, they're going to expect that I'm going to stay there, and I'm just going to get the insurance, and nobody knows that. Well, by the time we finally get Joe, the neurosurgeon was going to be 3 months out. I wasn't driving that bus for 3 months. So I'm like, I called my GP. I said, Dr. Center, what are we going to do? He's an old World War II veteran. He goes, oh, hell, go into the hospital. They'll just tell him he's having some problems in his head. They'll scan it. Okay. So I tell Joe, when we go in there, fail the test. Just fail the test, no matter what. I don't care. They're going to tell you touch your nose, you touch your elbow, touch your knee, touch anything but what they tell you to touch, okay? I want to get this head scanned. I've been on the bus 2 weeks now. This is not the job. First day on the job, 2 middle schoolers, decide to go punching it out. Blood's flying everywhere. I got each of them like this, and I'm marching them to the principal's office, and I get about from here to that rail with them, and I am pissed, and I am like Mighty Mouse. You're not messing with me. I'm like, God, and I get to that rail, and I swear to God, another bus drives by, and he goes, did you get your keys? I'm like, no. So I tell the boy, stay right there. I run back. I go get the keys, and I turn around. And he goes, keys. Why are you just? Because I am wrapped tight. Something's wrong with my husband, and I'm driving a bus. What have I done? How many of you guys have said, oh, this was such a bad idea? That's like the motto of the alcoholic. So it sounded like a great idea until I did it. So I take those boys there, and when I come out, those kids are jumping from one seat to another, rocking that bus on the wheels. Yeah, that was just the bad day. It got way worse. If the vomiting is unbelievable. If your kid says he's going to vomit, don't put him on a bus, because it's just epidemic. One vomits, they all vomit. I swear to God, at one point I had the kids, I'm like, everybody put your head out the window. And this kid is vomiting, they're all like, I go, don't look back, just don't look back. I'm just trying to get off the road. I'm like, oh my God, they're all gonna blow here in a minute. Say, you watch somebody vomit, everybody vomits. Oh my God. You gotta put on the gloves. I mean, oh my God, I just can't, I have thousands of bus stories. So we're in the hospital, and Joe, I swear to God, the doc comes in, and I don't get well along with Western medicine at all. Never have. I'm holistic, never have. I take an instant dislike to them. They take an instant dislike to me. I'm better. Charlie's had some illnesses, and the doctors like me. But, I wasn't back then. And we come in there, and I say, the doc says, so you think he has something wrong with his brain? And I swear he was just doing this. And I said, well, yes, I do. And I'm thinking, you got no idea, buddy, I am wrapped so tight. And he goes, Joe, he goes, let me touch your nose. And Joe goes. And then he goes, touch your elbow. He's like. And I get behind the doctor, I'm like, oh my God. And so Joe goes through the whole thing, and then he says, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we're not getting his head scanned. And then he says, what's 2 + 2? And Joe says, I'm a cabinet maker. I should know that. And the doctor says, we'll go scan his head. Oh, thank you, Mr. Deity here. Thank you. And they take him back. They scan his head, and it's about an hour and a half before they come back. And that doc comes in, puts his hand right here, and he goes, my God, he has a tumor as big as my fist in his head. And he said, my God, about 3 times. And my very first thought was, oh, my God, I'm going to be driving this school bus forever. This is not good news. And I didn't say that to my husband, but that's how self-centered we are, right? You say that to a group of people, and they go like this. You say it to us, we're like, oh, yeah, I get you. That's tough. That is tough. And, of course, I crawl up in bed. I'm laying there with Joe. We're crying. It's devastating. It's devastating information. But that's what I'm saying. That level of self-reliance and where I went, Joe ended up being benign. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was miraculous, but he's never going to work another day in his life. That's what the neurosurgeon said, quote, unquote. We were a 2-income family. We had a kid in college, a kid in elementary school. It was like I swallowed a tennis ball. I mean, we are a 2-income family. So, of course, what am I going to get? Social Security disability. I've been working since I was 13. Joe's worked since he's 15. We've paid into the system. Oh, no, it doesn't work that easy. No. So where am I? Social Security. Listen. I mean, I am wrapped tight. Now, I finally got it, but it took 22 months to get it. And somebody's like, get a lawyer. I'm not getting a lawyer. Take half my money. I got a senator is what I got. And I got it when I got a senator. Okay, I got way off track. Well, there you have it. See, honey, I went rogue again, didn't I? We just did a talk in Indiana, and I went so rogue. Oh, my God, I just abandoned my whole talk and just story after story after story. But see, this is what I'm talking about. If you are in untreated alcoholism, if you're even questioning it, this is what I'm talking about when you start looking back at your life. If you have no relationship with family members, that's important. That's what I think AA is all about, is bringing families back together, if you want to know the truth. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I talk to a lot of people all week long all over the world, and there's a lot of pain and anguish in Alcoholics Anonymous. So, I'm on this school bus, So I found that I'm in the need of the power again. So back to the solution. Page 46, 4 lines in, it says, God does not make too hard of terms for those who seek him. Isn't that interesting? Not too hard of terms. Now, is life hard? Yes, but not the terms that God has. Where are the terms? They're on page 63. He will take care of what I needed if I stay close to him and perform his work well. Well, in order to stay close to him, I have to get close to him. In order to get close to him, I have to get unblocked. See, you don't get close to God because you read a piece of spiritual literature if you're alcoholic. Oh, no. No, you have to do a lot of work, a lot of pen to paper, a lot of admitting your shortcomings, the swallowing of your pride, All of that stuff. Everyone in this room has to do that. If you be alcoholic, you don't get to miss that. And I'm telling you, what I said about Bill Wilson, named as one of the men that changed the 20th century in our big book, was one of 88. Think about that. We've been given this gift that the rest of the world has not been given. Only alcoholics. And it sat on my shelf for 15 years. I'm not ashamed of that. That's just the facts. I had no idea what I had in my hand. I had no idea the jewel that this thing would bring me to this relationship that said I can handle anything. And I believe that today. I don't really want to handle some devastating stuff, but if it be, I can handle it. I like to say, we like to say, bring God in. I think we have to move me out. It's not bringing God. He's already in. It's all blocked. It's all blocked with pissed. Pissed at insurance, pissed at the guy at the meeting, pissed at the weather, pissed at my boss. We're just mad. A lot of us are just mad or depressed. You could call it whatever you want, inward, outward, whatever. It's always a process of subtraction. We sit on the throne of judgment, right? This state of separation. You don't understand. My problem's different. That's what the alcoholic flag is. It's all in the third column. The old ideas, remember in working, how it works, it says we had to get rid of our old ideas. The result was nil until we let go absolutely. Old ideas are in the third column of a resentment inventory. They're in the self-reliance and a fear inventory. And they're all over a conduct sex inventory. See, you have to get down to your old ideas, because what happens when you've been sober a while, your old ideas turn into good ideas. I'm a good mother. I'm really a better mother than you are. I've been watching, right? I'm a good AA. I'm really a better AA than you are. I've been watching. You know what I mean? So my old ideas are typically very good. They're not the bad ones where I'm a loser, I'm never going to be that, I'm always going to be that. No, those are there too. But watch how they start to change. That's why the third step comes alive, because it's behind a kind motive. I'm just such a giver. Really just such a giver. And it's always got a motive. Page 46, to us the realm of the Spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. I love it. The steps tell us when to take them, how to take them, and why to take them. Think about that. I lived in oral AA forever, right? And I hope you read the book and quoted it, because I wasn't going to read it. That's where I was in life. It says on page 55, I love to talk about clear the ground a bit. We can only clear the ground. It's the third paragraph down. It is an important paragraph to pay attention to. We can only clear the ground a bit, right? Today, this weekend, you can only clear the ground a bit. This amazing spiritual awakening is not going to be like the alcohol removed. They are very small, they are very painful, they are a very big deal, but they are very slow in coming, right? If you compare it to, I didn't have the white light, it was 90 days, it was finally gone, yada, 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 but these are so, I bet you I've written on certain incidences in my life, I've written at least 800 pieces of inventory, and it wasn't until 801 that it was objectionable. I am done feeling this pain, and I'm beat. I am beat. And then I really made it a 6-step issue. I can't do this anymore. I can't continue this fight in the world, or whatever it is that you're doing. And I wish it happened at 402, but it didn't. But I never gave up trying. I never will give up trying. I always know that God, it's me that's standing in the way, not God. So it says, if we can only clear the ground a bit, if our testimony, listen to these options, if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice are old ideas. It's my old idea what I have on the world. Democrat, Republican, abortion, not abortion. You name it. It's everywhere. In-laws, no in-laws. Marriage, no marriage. I mean, we have it on everything. Those are the big ones. We can take it down to the small ones. Why did the grocery store move the can of beans to that side over there? Nobody ran that past me. You know what I mean? I mean, we can make a big deal out of anything. And it says, enable you to think honestly, which assumes that you can't think honestly, right? I mean, that's really true. If we can't differentiate the true from the false, our alcoholic life is the only normal one. When you're sitting there in a situation that you know is wrong and you've still made it okay, that's what it's talking about. I mean, it's what we do. Encourage you to search diligently within yourself. So it's telling us only people with courage will dig deep. Nobody likes the leveling of their pride, the swallowing of our shortcomings. Swallow and digest large chunks of truth about yourself. Very painful. If you wish, you can join us on this broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. We're always talking consciousness. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.